I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on.
Johnny Cash has sung his way from rags to riches, from sinner to saint. He's an American original, a man whose weathered face and road-weary voice reflect a lifetime of pain and triumph.
I never had any idea that I would ever do anything else with my life but this.
In the next 2 hours, you'll share Johnny Cash's long, sometimes harrowing journey from rural shotgun shack to a sprawling country estate, from an uninspired appliance salesman to hell-raising country star. His is a journey that took him from the peak of fame to the abyss of drug addiction.
Johnny's a confirmed drug addict, and I don't like to say that.
An addiction that nearly cost Cash his freedom and his life.
He was just afraid that his heart was going to give out and he was going to die right there in that bed. It was very, very frightening.
Cash's turbulent journey of pain and rage destroyed one marriage.
I knew something was bad, wrong, but I was so naive.
And led Cash into the arms of his beloved June.
June has a daily effect on him, on my brother. You know, they love each other very much.
We'll share Cash's finest music and lowest moments when his longtime recording partners called it quits.
Some of the CBS people thought, you know, we have the power to knock Johnny Cash off our label or anyone else, and they kind of gloated about it.
Today, Cash has re-emerged as one of America's premier recording artists.
His unique and as individual as any pop musical artist that's, I think, ever recorded in America and probably the world.
And finally, we'll watch the man in black find inner peace.
You know, when I was a sinner, I was really a sinner. And then with redemption, I found that peace there in redemption, and this perfect peace.
Cash is a musical legend whose performances have taken him from maximum security prisons to the White House. He's one of the few country artists to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Cash's story will be told with exclusive archival footage, rare recordings, and dramatic reenactments. We'll hear from family members, friends, fellow artists, and country legends like Willie Nelson.
Not only is he good, but he's real, and he's that way every time. He's not one Johnny Cash today and another one tomorrow.
The dream of being one of them. From life's ambition was to be a star.
The public scandal.
In 1920, just 2 short years after the end of World War I, Army veteran Ray Cash returned home to Kingsland, Arkansas. Ray took up sharecropping, harvesting cotton on another man's property. He met and fell in love with local girl Carrie Rivers and married her on August 18, 1920. If Ray Cash had grown cotton as well as he sired children, he would have been a rich man. Carrie bore 7 children. Number 4 was named John R. Cash. Born on February 26, 1932, he arrived smack dab in the middle of the Great Depression. Life was tough on the family, remembers John.
We were poor. We were very poor. And at one time, we did live in a shotgun shack. When it got cold in the wintertime, we put cardboard over the windows. We didn't, there was no money.
In 1935, Ray Cash moved his family to another small farming community in Arkansas. Sister Joanne Cash.
Well, Dice, Arkansas is a colony of farmlands. If you stood on the road in front of our house and made a circle look, all you would have seen is farmlands and little white frame houses. Hard-working people.
Hard work was an understatement. During the spring, cotton is picked from sun up to sundown, and everyone was expected to work the land.
The cotton fields were our livelihood. My brother Tommy and me we were the water boys. We'd carry water, you know, when we were the youngest, and we'd carry water to my brothers and sisters that were in the cotton fields until we got old enough to go out too. Well, sure, we knew it was hard life. I look, at the time, I thought, well, we're really having a hard time, but I look back on it now and see how very blessed we were.
Neighbor J.E. Huff.
When you're too little to chop or pick cotton, you carry the water to the people that are big enough, and so they don't have to quit and go to the house and get a drink, and keep them fresh water.
The labor was backbreaking. Johnny passed the hours away daydreaming. Sister Louise Cash.
If I'd ask him something very often, he wouldn't even answer me. I'd ask him maybe the second time, and I'd look over at him, and his mind seemed to be far away.
If he wasn't dreaming, Johnny was singing.
To pass away, if you want to call it the drudgery of the work, I think that's where Johnny first learned to sing, is in the cotton fields, you know, passing the time away.
Johnny loved the inspirational sound of gospel music.
When I was growing up at home and I was listening to a lot of black gospel like Sister Rosetta, Mahalia Jackson.
Unfortunately, the Cashes didn't own a radio.
I used to go and turn on the car radios. Some of the workmen that were working on the river would leave their cars up there. I'd turn on the car radio and listen to the radio stations in Memphis.
Eventually, the Cashes bought a radio of their own, and Johnny would sit in front of the battery-powered set and soak in the sounds of the day's popular singers. His favorite were a country duo called the Louvin Brothers. In 1947, he got the chance to see them in concert.
Well, about 2 hours before the show started, I was there. I was the first one at the auditorium waiting, and I saw that big limousine come in, you know. Charlie Louvin walked right to me, and I froze. Oh. A knot came up in my throat. Here was a real live radio star just about to speak to me.
That moment left an indelible mark on young Johnny. So did another event in his teen years, the death of his brother Jack.
On a Saturday, Jack was going to make $3 extra by working at the agriculture building at school and was sawing, I believe, some logs or some wood, and the electric saw didn't have a guard on it. The wood slipped and he fell into the saw. He lived several days and had visions of heaven as he was dying.
Family and friends were devastated.
He was one of the best liked people around. He really was. And then he got into that saw and it ripped a bunch of his guts out.
Jack's death haunted Johnny, and his pain later became part of his music.
My love for my family, my friendships, the death of my brother. I found songs to sing there, you know.
Coming up, Cash is love-struck.
He told me that when he saw her, he thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, and he had to meet her.
And later, Johnny lives hard and nearly dies young.
Sometimes he'd be in the bed for 18 or 20 hours and impossible to move, and he was just afraid that his heart was going to give out and he was going to die right there in that bed. It was very, very frightening.
The coolest entertainment merchandise is always just a click away with shop.eonline.com. Yeah, baby. It's time to get groovy with Austin Powers collectibles, including smashing new merchandise from The Spy Who Shagged Me. Swing on over for hats, posters, and loads of other shagadelic memorabilia. Shopping online's never been easier. You'll find the widest range of entertainment products together in one place at one website address, shop.eonline.com, the internet's one-stop shop for entertainment.
Hello. Is this phone clear? Well, that depends on your definition of clarity. What? Clear like this? Or this? Or clear like this?
Sprint PCS gives you the clarity of the nation's only 100% digital, 100% PCS network, built from the ground up. And the simplicity of the new free and clear plan, including free long distance.
Great, I'll take it.
Sprint PCS. the clear alternative to cellular.
Then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
Great movie.
Great game.
Great movie.
Gossamer Bay.
Great idea.
Gossamer Bay. Something to agree on.
It's here. The award-winning 215 horsepower power plant. The more powerful, intrigue. Intrigue by Oldsmobile. Start to command performance. Start something.
This is just the entrance. What do you say we go inside?
Call 1-407-W-Disney and make your dream come true.
Les Miserables, the world's most popular musical, on Broadway at the Imperial Theater. Call Telecharge 212-239-6200 today.
Chill out with host Jules Asner as we go wild on ice. This Sunday at 10 Eastern and Pacific, only on E!
The Bose Wave Radio was created around the idea of simplicity. Its award-winning audio technology delivers rich, lifelike sound that radio world called simply amazing. And yet it's so small, so simple, it could only be from Bose. Just use this handy remote to get room-filling sound from a radio that's compact and easy to use. Bose even made the ordering process, well, simple. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call the number on your screen. Bose delivers the radio right to your door. Try it out for 30 days, risk-free. If you're not completely satisfied, just call Bose. They'll refund the purchase price. As simple as that.
So call today for the Bose Wave Radio or the new Wave Radio CD. Johnny Cash spent his childhood toiling alongside his family in the cotton fields of Arkansas. Death and poverty were a way of life, and music was his only solace. In 1950, after graduating from high school in Dyess, Arkansas, 18-year-old Johnny Cash packed his bag and hitchhiked to Michigan. He found work at the Fisher Body Plant in Pontiac. Daughter Kathy Cash.
I think he hitchhiked to Detroit and worked 3 weeks. And from what I heard, his boss was really rough on him. And I think he hitchhiked back about 3 weeks later.
He was always aimlessly looking for a job, and nothing ever satisfied him because his love was music.
Cash had few options. In desperate need of a job, he enlisted in the United States Air Force. He was assigned to Brooks Air Force Base near San Antonio, Texas. There, one evening, Cash met Vivian Liberto, a 17-year-old Italian girl.
We met at a roller skating rink in San Antonio. One night, my girlfriend and I were there, and it was about 20 minutes till closing time, and he asked me to skate. and we skated together, and then he asked me if he could take me home. And I was spending the night with my girlfriend, so I thought, well, it's pretty safe. So, and we were on the bus to boot. So we went home to my girlfriend's house, the three of us, on the bus, and that was how we met.
Daughter Cindy Cash.
He told me that when he saw her, he thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, and he had to meet her. And he literally knocked her down to meet her.
Cash was smitten. Vivian wasn't so sure.
We dated for a month after that. He called the next day, and we dated for 30 days before he left for Germany for 3 years. We didn't see each other for 3 years.
Cash had been assigned to an Air Force base in Landsberg, Germany. He wasn't happy about leaving Vivian, but he made her promise to wait for him. In a week's time, he was stationed in Germany as a radio intercept operator, and he became an expert in deciphering Russian signals. It was a pressure-filled job, and Cash took up an off-duty hobby, playing guitar.
In Germany, when I was in the service over there, I bought my first guitar. I couldn't afford it when I lived on the front. Bought my first guitar in Germany and paid the equivalent of $5 for it. And that's the one I learned to play on.
He practiced that guitar every free moment and even began writing a few songs. It was only natural that he would soon start a band.
He had a band in Germany called the Landsberg Barbarians, and they used to just sing in clubs.
B.J. Carnahan.
Hey, Crow!
Hey, you're looking good.
Good to see you,
I
buddy.
think this is the first time America's ever seen the Landsberg Barbarians. Isn't that right, Peter?
That's true. That's right, Ralph.
Yeah.
In fact, we had quite a group over there.
B.J. Carnahan, an Air Force buddy and member of the Barbarians.
It wasn't much of a group, really. And I shouldn't say it wasn't much of a group. It was kind of an initial type thing, you know, where all the guys got together that didn't do much picking, hadn't done much picking before, but we had a lot of fun.
For Cash, it was more than fun. It was a turning point in his life. He wasn't just any old serviceman anymore. He was a performer. In the Air Force, Cash traveled around Europe, where he saw the coronation of England's Queen Elizabeth in 1953, and traveled to Barcelona, Spain, where he was fascinated by the flamenco guitar. Cash absorbed the world around him, and later, one of his colorful recollections would become the basis of a classic song written by the late Carl Perkins.
C.B. White was a black man that we all worked with, good at his job. But C.V. liked to go to town in his Air Force blues, and instead of wearing regulation black shoes, he liked to wear blue suede shoes.
Cash picked up some bad habits in the service, namely drinking, smoking, and fighting, but not womanizing. He was still madly in love with Vivian.
The main thing I remember of him and Vivian was he wrote so many letters. If he wasn't writing a letter, he just finished one.
We wrote every day for 3 years, sometimes twice a day. And we had like over 1,000 letters from him and 1,000 from me. Oh, we talked about marriage and children and a family and all the fantasy that we had. And he proposed from Germany.
On July 4th, 1954, the 22-year-old Cash was discharged. He headed straight for Memphis and Vivian.
He returned home, and my dad said, would you please be willing to wait 1 month just to make sure you still feel the same before you marry? So we did.
22-year-old Johnny and 20-year-old Vivian were married on August 7th, 1954.
I do remember having no doubt when my dad walked me down the aisle, and I was not in doubt that I was doing the right thing. Since I was a child, little child, My only dream was to marry and have children. I never dreamed about a career. I never wanted anything more.
Intent upon making a home for Vivian, the newlyweds moved to Memphis and into a new home.
And we had 2 rooms on the second floor, and 3 rooms on the top floor, and the screens were out, the mosquitoes came in, and it was fun.
Cash took a job selling appliances at the home equipment company in Memphis.
I don't know if we made money. Johnny was making an effort selling appliances. Didn't go well. He was knocking on doors, and that's not his, wasn't going to be his career. I knew that.
She, to me, was one of the people that had to have a tough hide, because it was rough early on with Johnny. I mean, even before he started recording. Johnny will tell you he was a world's worst salesman. I mean, period.
Cash still hustled around at night, trying to find work in the entertainment business. Radio broadcaster John Bell.
So one day, my girl comes in and said, "There's somebody here to see you." And we chatted for a minute, and he said he wanted a job as an announcer. Well, in those days, radio announcers were perceived to have the pontifical tones and the well-educated in the diction and so forth, and that hardly fit John Cash in those days. So I told John, I said, "Well, I don't think you have much of a future in show business."
Bell referred Cash to the Keegan School of Broadcasting in Memphis, where Cash enrolled in 1954. He kept auditioning for radio jobs, and finally, George Klein, a friend of Elvis Presley and a Memphis disc jockey, hired him.
Now we'd put him on the air, and Johnny would sing for 15 minutes, and in between songs, he would talk about this vacuum cleaner company he was working for. And he would say, after the show, now I'm going to be out in the office, and I'll take your calls.
In 1955, Cash formed a band, Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Two.
He knew these mechanics that played music, and so he got them together. That was Marshall Grant and Luther Perkins. And they got into a garage and started practicing and put a band together.
Marshall Grant remembers the meeting.
I looked up and I saw him, and it was this real special feeling, you know, that went through my body. It was like a little tingle that started in on my back and went up into the back of my hair. And I met him, and we become instant friends, just like that. We were friends within 10 seconds after we met. It's like we'd known one another for years.
Grant, an auto mechanic, was also an aspiring musician. He introduced Cash to fellow mechanic Luther Perkins.
Luther Perkins was a mechanic in the same shop that I was. He just worked on the opposite side of the shop. And the way that we all got together, when Luther and I would bring our guitars to work sometime when work was slow, and we'd go back in the dressing room, and when we didn't have anything to do, we would sit there and strum on these guitars. And that's when Roy said, "You know, guys, I've got a brother in Germany that plays guitar and he sings, and when he gets out, let's get together." And at this time, we were strumming on, all 3 of us were strumming on rhythm guitars. John had an old German-made guitar, and Luther had a guitar, and I had a Martin guitar, and that's what we did.
They borrowed an electric guitar and pooled their resources to buy a stand-up bass.
So we bought the bass, and after a couple of nights, we didn't know how to tune it. We didn't know how to tune this bass. We didn't know it was like the 4 top strings of a guitar. We didn't have no earthly idea.
Using masking tape, Grant labeled the notes onto the bass and plunged ahead.
Luther's amplifier was wide open, and he had to lay his hand against the strings to keep it from knocking our ears out. And so he sort of muffed the strings, and I started playing the bass and slapping it the only way that I knew how to do. And the sound of Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Two was born in the first 8 bars that we ever played, right there. And it was because none of us knew what we were doing. It was a sort of a funky sound, and we didn't know whether we liked it or not, and we started trying to play like these people we heard on the radio. but we couldn't do it at that point because we just weren't that great of musicians. We were two mechanics and an appliance salesman.
Coming up, Cash and the Tennessee Two meet up with Sun Records.
I said, you know, we may not sell 2 records on this thing, but I am break my damn neck or find out why.
And later, the rigors of the road overwhelm a superstar.
Dexedrine, Benzedrine, uppers, and then when it came time that I felt like I just had to go to bed or die, it would be sleeping pills.
She grew up wanting to be an actress and became America's favorite TV mom.
She's just wonderful.
But for this home improvement star, becoming a real-life mother wasn't easy.
She had had troubled pregnancies.
In an exclusive interview, Patricia Richardson shares her personal struggles in the rise to fame.
I was always terrified of being on stage.
And answers the question, is it all worth it?
There were huge blessings and some heavy price tags.
Real stars, real stories. Patricia Richardson Celebrity Profile, this Wednesday at 8, only on E!
Don't let seasonal allergies keep your child away from a beautiful day. Claritin syrup helps put nature back in its place.
I'm walking on sunshine.
One dose gives kids 24 hours of relief from seasonal allergy symptoms. Claritin syrup is the only once-a-day non-drowsy antihistamine safe for children as young as 6 with a low occurrence of side effects such as nervousness, wheezing, fatigue, and hyperactivity. Take clear control. Talk to your child's doctor about Claritin syrup.
I'm sitting across from a person who's getting ready to write a large sum of money for an automobile, and I've purchased vehicles before, and I know exactly what they're going through. It can be nerve-wracking. The no-hassle, no-haggle price allows Saturn to be so much at ease with the customer and allows us to treat everyone so fair. It really doesn't matter whether you do a short-term lease, a long-term lease, short-term financing, long-term financing, or cash. Once you're in the Saturn family, you're in the Saturn family. I am going to see this person again. You see them at the supermarket, and you see them in a restaurant, so we want to make sure they are completely comfortable with the entire process.
Summer breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind.
Summer breezes from the Hampton Bay Fan and Lighting Company. Possibly the quietest fans around, and around, and around. Available at the Home Depot.
Or make myself a drink. Make a move.
Pre-mixed Kahlua drinks to go. B-52s, mudslides, White Russians. They keep the party going.
No matter where you are these days, it seems people are using 1010-9000, the easy way to find a phone number.
That's because all you do is dial one number, 1010-9000, to get any listing you want.
And it could be any town, anywhere in America.
They'll even dial it for you and not charge anything extra for doing it.
So you don't have to hang up and dial it yourself. That's pretty easy, huh?
You said it.
No, I think we said it together.
Well, obviously you needed some help.
Thanks. 1010-9000. Directory assistance for everyone in America.
Hey, it's a brand new day. So who needs yesterday's coffee or yesterday's news? So why are you wearing yesterday's contacts? Introducing Focus Dailies, the one-day contact lenses you put in each morning and throw away each night. You'll never clean another contact lens or feel more comfortable. Revolutionary Focus Dailies. Anything else is like yesterday's socks. Call now for your free 5-day trial. Focus Dailies, today's contacts.
HBO presents an original motion picture about an innocent suspect
You might just as soon put a hog in the electric chair as this.
and a man torn
I am a teacher, not the Messiah.
between his responsibilities and his dreams.
You run away from this and you're running away from your people, and I won't have any part of that.
You want me to be somebody?
A lesson before dying, coming soon only to HBO.
Domino's.
Thank you much.
Uncle James, you are Domino's.
You don't know anything about this.
Yes, we do.
See,
The Domino's Heat Wave bag delivers the hottest, best tasting Domino's ever. Golden brown crust, melted cheese.
The cheese stays gooey. Because the Domino's Heat Wave bag is like a portable oven.
Juicy pepperoni, sausage.
Call now and order your favorite Domino's pizza. We'll deliver it oven fresh.
Domino's! Delivering a million smiles a day.
This portion of E is brought to you by Domino's, delivering a million smiles a day.
"22-year-old Johnny Cash, home from the service, married and selling home appliances, dreamed of becoming a singer. It took a lot of talent, a lot of luck, and the guiding hand of legendary producer Sam Phillips to make his dream come true. In 1950, an ambitious visionary from Alabama named Sam Phillips came to Memphis with the idea for a different kind of record label.
We started out, and our main purpose was, at first, was to record black artists that weren't given an opportunity, and that was starting in January of 1950 is when I opened the little studio, Sun Records, Memphis Recording Service at 706 Union Avenue, right here in Memphis, Tennessee.
It wasn't long before Memphis musicians, both black and white, came buzzing around Sun Studios.
We were there, and the word gets around. And it also got around that they were going to be treated fair, both black and white, as the Elvises came along later on.
But Elvis was not the only hopeful star to record for Sam Phillips. In 1955, Cash and the Tennessee Two, Marshall Grant and Luther Perkins, sent some homemade gospel recordings to Phillips.
He said, guys, he said, there's something about you that's it's a little different. He said, but we can't sell gospel music. He said, we all love it, but we can't sell it. We just can't sell it. He said, if you come up with something else now, he said, come back and see us.
Phillips brought the trio in for a session.
And one night, we decided that we wanted to get on record, because at this time we kept hearing this kid called Elvis Presley. And we knew the label was here in town, but we didn't know, that's all we knew. We didn't know nothing else, but that's what we wanted to do. And I don't know whether at this time we thought that we wanted to make a career out of it, or whether we just maybe wanted to record a record or what, but whatever the reason, we wanted to make a record at least.
And so John went home and penned the R&B song, Hey Porter.
And after about a month, we went back up there and got an audition with him, and we were going to still do a gospel song on one side, we wanted to at least, and put Hey Porter on the other side. And Sam says, guys, he said, I like this song you got here, and he says, it's really different, but he said, we still can't use a gospel song. You come up with something for the other side, we might record you. So that was also encouraging. So we go back, and then we come up with a song called Cry, Cry, Cry. And we go back to Sam and say, all right, we've got 2 songs here. And so we record them, Hey Porter and Cry, Cry, Cry. That was their very, very first record.
What I hear here on Hey Porter and Cry, 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 I said, we got to keep them coming like that.
Cutting the record wasn't as easy as it sounds. It took 35 takes to get Cry, Cry, Cry just right.
Johnny would get upset because he had felt that he had done his best on a lyric, and Luther would hit the wrong damn string in the middle of it, or right at the very end. But I had to get on Johnny a little bit. I said, you let Luther alone. That is my problem.
Both sides of the single, Cry, Cry, Cry and Hey Porter, found life on Memphis radio. Cash's first royalty check was a measly $6.42. But along with the single came an official name change. Sam Phillips felt that Cash's younger audience would relate more to the name Johnny.
I said, John, look, this is not going to make one hill of beans difference. What we call it was John or Johnny. But I said, let me feel like that I am doing the thing that I believe is right for you. I'd like to see if we can't get some younger people on your side.
Journalist Todd Everett.
Oh, everything in the world was striking and different about Johnny Cash. First of all, I don't know that he was, yeah, he probably was, but he looked older than most people who were on American Bandstand. He wasn't, these people weren't around necessarily, but he wasn't a Frankie or a Fabian or a Bobby Rydell or, you know, good-looking 17-year-old at that time.
To coincide with the start of his music career, the first of John and Vivian's 4 daughters arrived May 24th, 1955. She was named Roseanne. In the summer of 1955, 23-year-old Cash appeared in concert with Elvis Presley. Cash's family came to Memphis to see him, remembers brother Tommy Cash.
When I saw Johnny and Elvis and Roy Orbison all on the same show, and I knew that he was going to make it big. Elvis was beginning to be the phenomenon at the time, but Johnny Cash and Roy Orbison and some of those other son artists of the 50s, Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis and Charlie Rich and all of those were starting to come on too, and I knew something really big was happening.
Something big indeed. Cash and the Tennessee Two made regular appearances at the Louisiana Hayride, a regular venue for hot country artists.
The Louisiana Hayride was so instrumental in so many country artists' career back then, but as all the artists, including Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Two, as we got more well-known, for some reason or other, we just had a tendency to move to Nashville. Not to Nashville, but move to the Grand Ole Opry.
That same summer, Cash joined Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins in Sam Phillips' studio for a jam session. The foursome were later dubbed the $1 Million Quartet. Although the tape was never released, Sun Records recording engineer Jack Clement remembers the session vividly.
It was a Carl Perkins session, and Carl had invited Johnny to come by the session. And Jerry Lee was playing the piano, and they were cutting a thing called Matchbox. And Elvis just happened to drop by, as he would do from time to time. And then the session it was over, and they were all out there jamming and talking and telling stories and stuff. And I'm sitting in the control room looking out the window, and I said, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't put a tape on here and record this.
Elvis came in. Of course, Carl was there for the session, then Elvis came in. And this blew my mind that all these damn folks showed up at once. I mean, it really did. Nobody expected it. I did not. I mean, the only one I expect to see that day was Carl and his band and Jerry Lee solo by himself playing.
To correspond with Cash's burgeoning career, the second of John and Vivian's daughters arrived on April 16, 1956. She was christened Kathy. In 1957, Cash and the Tennessee Two released their first album entitled Hot and Blue Guitar. On it was a song that would forever be linked to Cash.
And I went boom, 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 boom. And he said, now go to E and just hang it there. And I went boom, 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 boom. And he started slapping his guitar and he said, I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. He said, don't forget that, because we're going to write a song, and we want to use that in it. And I said, well, I'll try not to forget it. And so he wrote I Walk the Line.
The gritty, haunting I Walk the Line would be Cash's most successful single, selling more than 1 million copies and making Cash a bona fide star. It was around this time that Cash began wearing his signature black outfits. Marshall Grant.
He's for the underdog. He's for the prisoner. He's for the man that has been abused. And I think black is just simply his favorite color because of the way he thinks about a lot of things.
The success of I Walk the Line pushed Cash into the limelight and onto the road, where he would spend most of his career.
It was hard when he was away. I'd never, you know, I had to make all the decisions and be a mother and a dad. And I was, as you put it, still very young. But, you know, you did what you had to do.
I remember he called every night when we were small. And in fact, we would beg to not go to bed until after Daddy called.
Yeah, I do remember that.
He always had a great relationship with his daughter. They wanted Daddy to be home, but unfortunately, he wasn't.
Being away from home, however, would be the least of Cash's problems. Coming up, Cash courts fame and trouble.
Uppers, and then when it came time that I felt like I just had to go to bed or die, it would be sleeping pills.
And later,
I hate to say that John's a drug addict, but he's an admitted drug addict. He knows it.
From sultry starlet to sexy stuntwoman, Heidi Von Beltz flew high.
She was the first girl to ever do a gator on skis.
Partied hard.
We were wild.
And rode fast.
What makes somebody do that?
But when her charmed career exploded, she should have died. Heidi would face the biggest hurdle of her life.
It doesn't seem like you're doing much, but it's a lot of work.
It's the story you haven't heard. Heidi Von Beltz, this Sunday at 8 on the E! True Hollywood Story.
Good afternoon, Heaven.
Yeah, I'm being investigated for tax fraud.
Oh, I'll put you right through, Senator. Heaven.
I need 5,000 brochures printed by Monday.
I'm sorry. We can't help you there.
Need a printing miracle? Call Alpha Graphics.
You thought we only made cars.
When your allergies are a nightmare, you need help. You need the power of Zyrtec. Prescription Zyrtec goes to work and lasts 24 hours. In studies, drowsiness was the most common side effect. Others included fatigue and dry mouth. Most were mild or moderate. To learn more, ask your doctor or pharmacist. So when allergies are a nightmare, remember the power of Zyrtec.
Unfortunately, even serious exercise doesn't do everything. So Nivea developed Skin Firming Lotion. It boosts your skin's firmness and tone every time you moisturize for visibly firmer skin. New Nivea Body Skin Firming Lotion.
Need any help? Absolutely fine, thank you.
Are you lost?
Grazie. Where is Cafe Verita?
It's right there.
Ah! Hey, please, you join me.
Is this Italian?
The best.
Ecco domani. What does that mean?
Not a clue.
Ecco domani. It means Italian.
Can't get enough peanuts? Get a payday. Sweet caramel and tons of salty peanuts.
Ziploc containers. Test number 12. Both of these containers can go into the microwave. One of them doesn't always make it. Ziploc. All you ever wanted in a container.
See the new musical from the composer of Jekyll and Hyde and the director of Smokey Joe's Cafe, The Civil War on Broadway at the St. James Theater. Call Telecharge 212-239-6200.
The daytime stars come out at night. Catch them live on E's Live Daytime Emmy Awards pre-show this Friday at 7, only on E!
This vacation break is brought to you by the...
Now more than ever, there's something for everyone on TCI. Just look what's coming up on TCI this May.
HGTV invites you to enjoy the only show devoted to everyone's favorite room, the kitchen.
From floor to ceiling, cupboard to cupboard, we'll give you great ideas for your own kitchen design.
Join host Joan Cohn as she visits exclusive designer showrooms and tours America's most beautiful kitchens. Watch Kitchen Design.
Tune in. It's all on cable. It's all on TCI.
If you're shopping for a used car and quality, selection, and price are important, here's good news. Nobody has what Tate has. Come to the Tate Dodge Used Car Auto Mall. Or come to Tate Chrysler Plymouth Used Car. Because at Tate, 2 is better than 1. For the best prices, the best selection, service, and warranted used cars, trucks, and minivans, Tate is the one name you need to know. That's the Tate Dodge Used Car Auto Mall and Tate Chrysler Plymouth Used Car in Glen Burnie.
Nobody has what Tate has.
In 1955, 23-year-old Johnny Cash was signed to Sun Records and became an overnight sensation when he recorded Sun Records' hit single, I Walk the Line. This, coupled with Cash's unique voice, helped the song rise to the top of the country charts. Soon, his records were spinning on radio stations across America. Cash followed I Walk the Line with Folsom Prison Blues. It, too, was a smash hit.
When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son.
Though Cash had never been in prison, the song captured the despair of a lonely prisoner and gave Cash an outlaw image. By 1958, Cash was a hot commodity, and he knew it. He was besieged with offers from other record labels. Sam Phillips opened negotiations, but they were less than successful. Recording engineer Jack Clement.
It was time to renew his contract, and I think Johnny was wanting more money, and Sam would have given it to him, but he wanted to argue about it. I think Cash kind of felt slighted or something. I think he got his feelings hurt.
Cash let it be known that he was available for other offers. At the end of 1958, Cash signed with Columbia Records. Sam Phillips lost his star performer and felt betrayed.
John is so damn honest. I mean, you know, when he said, no, Mr. Phillips, I didn't sign anything with Columbia. I knew damn well he was lying.
Cash's first single for his new label had a rockabilly feel to it, but remained anchored in the bedrock simplicity of country music. 1958 brought a few unexpected changes to Cash's life. His newfound stardom, for one, and the birth of his third daughter, Cindy. By 1959, the 27-year-old Cash had earned more than $250,000, and Ring of Fire was racing up the charts. Cash moved his family and the Tennessee Two to Hollywood. His career was expanding, and so was his family, with the birth of his fourth daughter, Tara. Kathy Cash remembers the move.
We had this great swimming pool, and it was just a little paradise. We had just moved from this tiny, tiny little apartment in Memphis. So we felt like we were just on top of the world. We liked Hollywood.
With his music career soaring, Cash tried his hand at acting. He appeared in a string of cheapy westerns. Actor Earl Hindman.
We were doing a TV movie called Murder in Cayuga County, so me and John played the good guys. He played the good guy, but I was always over his shoulder and everything like that. It was a great experience.
Country music legend Buck Owens.
He has an ultimate thing that everybody wants. I'd love to have that. I'd love to be able to where I could play the hero, but I could just as easily play the villain. Johnny Cash can do that.
Cash's band, however, hated Hollywood.
So we decided that we were going to move back after a year. And so July of 1959, I think, we decided to move back, but John wanted to stay out there. He built a home up in Casita Springs, north of Ventura, and he stayed there. And so he lived there, and we lived here.
The movies were fun, but Cash's bread and butter was touring. By 1961, John was giving about 290 shows annually. The band traveled by bus, leaving one town, traveling all night, then performing in another. To stay awake, Cash took pills. lots of pills.
Amphetamines were pretty typical at the time, just so you could keep up with the hours and the days and the one-nighters. If you were going to be on a 2,000 or 3,000 mile tour, you just kind of checked around and made sure that everybody had some little white pills to keep your eyes open wide.
I remember one night watching him do a show somewhere. I'm sorry, I can't remember what town it was, but he did the same song twice in 15 minutes. And I don't think he realized it, but the audience did.
Cash may have felt good, but he was scarcely in control of himself. Barbara Mandrell remembers touring with him as a child.
I remember in that little cafe, I don't think it was a full-blown like truck stop, that we stopped one night. The Naugahyde on the booth that we sat in, a bunch of us, was just sort of ripped a little bit. He would sit there and he'd rip it some more. And then he'd rip it some more. By the time we left that nook, that booth, it was torn to shreds.
Those around him were stunned by Johnny's dependency.
It really hurt because I loved him so much I didn't want to see it happening. A great deal of weight loss, change in personality, the fact that he'd stay up for 2 or 3 days at a time, and then fall down and sleep for 18 hours, and then get up and do the same thing on over again. And, you know, it was taking a toll on his health for sure. I think it was the trap that John fell into, and I think he just went with it and didn't realize, because you don't when you're on that kind of a ride, what it's doing to yourself and other people. You only can look at that in retrospect later on and say, the things you said and did under those conditions you wish you could take back. But at the time, it seems perfectly all right.
After a while, any drug would do.
Dexedrine, Benzedrine, uppers, and then when it came time that I felt like I just had to go to bed or die, it would be sleeping pills. And then the next day back on uppers. It was a vicious cycle that a lot of people get caught up in.
John R. Cash, J.R. Cash, and I have never had a crossword in our life. But then there's this other person that comes by, and his name is Johnny Cash, and Johnny's a confirmed drug addict. And I don't like to say that. I hate to say that John's a drug addict, but he's an admitted drug addict. He knows it.
To relieve the monotony of the road, Johnny and his road crew created mischievous diversions to pass the time. Marshall Grant remembers one incident that took place in a Texas motel.
One thing led to another, and we started making little bombs, all about the size of a baseball, and that is funny. We'd take the powder out of a bunch of those things and put it in something, take a fuse down in there and wrap twine around it, get up about the size of a baseball.
After a while, even baseball-sized bombs weren't powerful enough for Cash.
And finally we got to where we stopped down in Texas one day and we bought 5 pounds of gunpowder, 4 sticks of dynamite, and a piece of 3-foot of dynamite fuse. And so we made this bomb. We lit the fuse on that thing and jumped in the car and run down here about a quarter of a mile and to see it go off, and directly that thing went off, and holy cow, it blew that telephone pole in two.
Cash's intense pace and continued reliance on drugs damaged his health and his marriage.
Well, it was gradual, but I could see a big difference in his behavior and his personality, and I knew something was bad, wrong, but I was so naive. I never had any dealings with drugs.
The children were always protected from this stark reality. Cindy Cash.
I don't remember any fighting going on. I know there probably was, but if there was, they were very private about it.
Privacy was most important for Vivian.
I really never shared a lot of it with them as yet. They ask questions. If they ask questions, I answer them. But nobody will ever really know.
Turning on with pills was far easier than turning off. Cash's tolerance increased until he was consuming up to 100 pills a day. His day of reckoning came in El Paso, Texas in 1964. Journalist Todd Everett.
He got arrested going over one border or another and carrying pills, I think it was at one point. It's the closest he ever came to actually serving time in prison.
Cash avoided jail that day, but the signs were clear. He was heading for a fall. Johnny's wife, Vivian, for one, had had enough.
It was terrible for both of us. I loved him, I wanted to support him, but I was angry also. I mean, you can't help but be angry and frustrated, like, why does it have to be this way, you know? Seemed simple, but of course it's not.
By 1966, Cash's 12-year marriage to Vivian reached its inevitable end. She filed for divorce on the grounds of extreme cruelty. On January 3, 1968, Johnny Cash, 35 years old, was officially single.
I finally made the decision that divorce was inevitable. It wasn't during that period, but it was after everything was finalized. I just sort of thought, I don't have to deal with it anymore.
Cash's dependency on amphetamines had not subsided.
I guess when I get bored with the songs, I still had to have an escape, so I turned to drugs a few times, too, in my life. Doing drugs, I wasn't dealing with pressure. So how do I deal with pressure now? I spend a lot of time, all the time alone that I can.
Another mistake in 1965, Cash accidentally set a forest fire that burned 508 acres of California National Forest. Friend Johnny Western.
Well, the forest fire thing was, he was there again with amphetamines, but he had to get away from people. And he took his camper up in the forest there in California, and actually he got it stuck. And he was gearing it back and forth, trying to get it out of the sand, and spinning the wheels created so much friction that it started to spark and started a fire all the way around the truck, which he finally had to abandon.
Cash's luck seemed to be running out, but that began to change when he started a relationship with a fellow performer. Her name was June Carter. Several years earlier, John met June Carter backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, where she was performing with her legendary Carter family. Shortly after, she was asked to join Johnny's show as his backup singer. While John's personal struggles continued, June reluctantly found herself falling in love with him.
Well, I've known him a long time, but I didn't love him to begin with.
What was your first impression of John?
My first impression, I met him, you see, but when I first started working with him, my first impression was your pants need to be pressed before you go on that
stage. Coming up, Johnny Cash fights for his life.
It scared me to death. It absolutely scared. I thought he was going to die.
His personality would go into overdrive, and basically it was that kind of difference between the real Johnny Cash and Johnny Cash on amphetamines.
And later, John uses his personal demons to make musical magic.
From across the frozen tundra, you can hear the call of the wild. And to stay warm out here, you have to go to extremes.
Get wild and awesome, baby.
Go snowboarding with snow bunnies.
Freezing my butt off.
Do a sun dance.
The guy got Stella her groove back.
And make sure to drink plenty of fluids.
This is called the Upside Down Slammer Bammer.
Join host Jules Asner as we go wild on ice this Sunday at 10 Eastern and Pacific, only on E!
I don't know what makes my Italian family happier, talking or reading. But when we're doing both, we're in heaven. Every bowl of salad brings out unlimited family gossip. Every breadstick makes a very good point. Keep our glasses full and our forks busy, and we'll keep going. And that's how it goes when we're at the Olive Garden. It's what they call hospitaliano. We feel happy when you feel at home. In fact, I feel at home enough to tell you, Nina was not born with that nose. The Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family.
After 3 years of development, 300 scientific studies, and with 23 patents filed, comes a breakthrough in dental care. Introducing the revolutionary Oral-B cross-action. Its unique crisscross bristles penetrate to lift out and sweep away more plaque than any other brush. Clinical tests prove it. Now you can too. The new cross-action toothbrush from Oral-B.
Where you take St. John's Bay cargoes is nothing compared to where they take you. Cargo pants and shorts from St. John's Bay. Pockets of freedom in your state of mind. Every day's the weekend in St. John's Bay. Only at JCPenney.
Once there was an adorable prince who loved to frolic and play. But one day he fell under a strange spell. Frolicking was suddenly uncool. To reverse the spell, his parents took him to a most magical place. And it worked. The boy forgot to act cool and had the time of his life with his happy family. Of course, he later broke their hearts by going to college out of state, but that's another tale. Call 1-407-WDisney and make your dream come true.
Talk to me, lad. Unburden yourself. Oh, your silence speaks volumes. You're living a lie, aren't you? You can't go around looking like diet when you're tasting more like the regular Dr. Pepper. Do you feel no remorse? Do you feel no shame? Oh, boy.
Diet Dr. Pepper tastes more like regular. That's our story, and we're sticking to it.
Maybelline introduces curlier, flirtier lashes with Wonder Curl Mascara. The Curl Activator brush grabs and curls. The elastic formula sets for ultra curly lashes. Wonder Curl.
Maybe she's born with it.
Not yet. Getting warmer. Now it's official. It's not really summer until you have your ballpark.
Only ballpark Franks have such a big, juicy taste. They plump when you cook them.
Don't you just love summer?
I'm Steve Kirby. These are my mountains. I test emissions for Ford Motor Company. We're up here in the Rockies testing Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury sport utility vehicles. We're really concerned about the environment. Every SUV we sell this year is going to be low emissions. These vehicles average 35% less smog-forming emissions than the government requires. 35%. That's really amazing. The government doesn't make us do this. We're doing this for my mountains. Better ideas driven by you.
This portion of E is brought to you by Ford Motor Company. Better ideas driven by you.
By the fall of 1967, 35-year-old Johnny Cash was addicted to drugs, and his 12-year marriage to Vivian Liberto had dissolved. Although Cash was nearing rock bottom with his personal life, his career continued to rise. Johnny Cash and June Carter, his one-time backup singer, were deeply in love. But his amphetamine addiction frightened Carter. Cash realized June would never marry him unless he was clean. Dixie Hall, wife of country singer Tom T. Hall and close friend of Cash.
June wasn't about to have any part of him until she straightened his butt out. She did a great job. But of course, if John hadn't wanted to be tamed, he never would have been.
It was a long, painful road to recovery. Psychiatrist Nat Winston was asked to intervene.
June came by and she said, "Nat, you've got to come see him. He's dying, and you've got to help him." And so I went out with June and met him, and sure enough, he was really pretty sick. He was down to about 128 pounds.
Cash reluctantly agreed to an intensive intervention.
He insisted on staying at home, and we organized babysitters to sit around the clock with him, and I withdrew him over a long period of time, and I'd get back home maybe at 11 o'clock at night. I'd drive out to John's to see how he was doing. 30 days straight, I didn't miss going out to see him.
The nights were long and filled with temptations, nightmares, and hallucinations. Cash knew his demons wouldn't give easily.
His health deteriorated, And it scared me to death. It absolutely scared. I thought he was going to die. I really did.
You know, it was just kind of like an overdrive. His personality would go to overdrive, and basically it was that kind of difference between the real Johnny Cash and Johnny Cash on amphetamines.
Good friends came and went, but June remained at Cash's side. Close friend Marshall Grant.
June always recognized this great human being. And not only did she love him with all of her heart, but she wanted to salvage this great human being because she knew there was greatness in him from his head to his toe, and she wanted to display that.
They're travel partners, and they're best friends, and they've got out there and done something together that has kept them together.
Actor John Schneider.
What he saw in June was the ability to still be Johnny Cash, but to always have a place to go home to, and to always have someone who would understand, or someone that would grab a hold of the cuff on his trousers and pull him back down to earth. Because I've seen her do it, and she doesn't do it gently either.
In January of 1968, a rejuvenated 36-year-old Cash recorded one of his most powerful albums, live at Folsom Prison in California.
I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on.
I think he felt a great compassion for people in prison, and they certainly identified with him. I think Folsom Prison Blues, created a great empathy.
In March of 1968, Johnny Cash popped the question to June in his own unique way.
They worked together a long time on just a professional basis. They got married in '68, I think it was. So he asked her on stage to marry him. And with a little bit of coaxing, I think, from him in the audience, that she said yes there.
June and John were married on March 11, 1968, in Franklin, Kentucky, just north of Nashville. To add to their bliss, the couple's duet, Jackson, was still soaring at the top of the charts, and they won a second Grammy for Best Record.
They did some duets that were Grammy Award-winning duets in the '60s. Jackson, they're both addicted to the music,
The Man in Black had become a national icon. When the State Department asked him to perform for the troops in Vietnam, Cash jumped at the chance. But it was an ill-fated trip. While touring the Army bases, Johnny suffered a drug relapse. Once more, Cash, assisted by his wife June, was able to shake off his addiction. But when he and his band returned to America, tragedy struck. On August 3, 1969, Cash guitarist and lifelong friend Luther Perkins died in his sleep from a fire he set with his cigarette.
Luther was a smoker, and he was working on his taxes, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, he lay down on the couch with a cigarette in his hand. The cigarette caught the couch on fire, and smoke inhalation and flames got him.
Cash was devastated. As the 70s dawned, Cash took a new approach to life. Gone were the drugs and booze and wild living. In came religion. In 1971, 39-year-old Cash, his wife June, and 30 friends made a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Cash was struck by the spirituality of Israel and produced a movie about the life of Christ called Gospel Road. Singer Pat Boone.
This was a labor of love of Johnny's, and so Johnny, feeling that and wanting to discover more about the Jewish roots of Christianity, went to Israel, did a magnificent film.
To many believers, their life's desire is to be baptized in the Jordan River as Jesus was. They kneel at the holy places, places that are holy simply because Jesus was there. They walk the way of the cross. They shout, "Praise the Lord," and they mean it.
Career-wise, Cash was hotter than August in Memphis. He recorded the song A Boy Named Sue. The song surpassed the success of his earlier recording of Folsom Prison Blues, making him Columbia Records' biggest-selling crossover artist of the early 70s. It was only a matter of time before the TV networks came calling.
Right after A Boy Named Sue and the two prison albums, he got himself a television show on ABC television. And that was real important because for any number of reasons. First of all, it wasn't all that usual for a country performer to have a national television show. He cut the TV show in Nashville. He didn't come up to Los Angeles or New York and do it. And he somehow or another finagled the network into letting him have people he wanted to be on the show.
Country legend Tom T. Hall.
It was a rare thing back in those days for country music to be on network television.
Other television offers soon followed. Actor John Schneider recalls his first Cash experience.
I first met Johnny Cash when I was cast to do a movie called Stagecoach. And we did that out in Old Tucson. We met the day before we started to shoot. We began shooting, and I was kind of nervous. And there was Johnny Cash, and I'm here to tell you that something changed in the room when Johnny Cash walked in the room.
Singer Graham Nash remembers an evening at the Cash home after one taping.
At the end of dinner, Johnny stands up and he clicks a glass, you know, with his fork, and he goes, ladies and gentlemen, there's a kind of a tradition here at the Cash house that people should sing for their supper. So I picked up Johnny's guitar and I sat down and I sang Marrakesh Express. It was one of the very first public performances of the song.
If a hit album and TV series weren't enough, Cash's biggest triumph of 1970 occurred in March when son John Carter Cash was born.
The day he was born on a Friday around noon. I got a call from John and he said, Nat, this is John Cash. I said, yeah? He said, John Carter Cash is here. And that was just a great moment. He was so thrilled.
Hey, Johnny Carter. Hi, sir.
There's your son, John.
Hi, sir.
John Carter.
How you doing?
Up to this point, Cash was still battling with the urge to do drugs. But when his son was born, it seemed to also be a rebirth for Johnny Cash.
The day John Carter Cash was born, drugs left. Completely left. This is March of 1970. There was no drugs. None whatsoever.
John's struggle with drugs did not end neatly with his withdrawal. He credits his strong faith in God for giving him strength.
You know, when I was a sinner, I was really a sinner. And then with redemption, I found the peace there in redemption, and it's perfect peace. Hard to hang on to, but it's there for me, you know, through God. And but I can't close the door on the past because that's part of what I am too. Can't deny it or I'd be a liar.
Cash's son, John Carter Cash.
He wanted to, in essence, be a good man, which he already was, but he wanted to rise out of these problems. And he did that, but he had to go through certain pains to get there, to get to the point where he could have a spiritual awakening.
In April of 1970, 1 month after the birth of his son, Cash was requested to perform at the White House for then-President Richard Nixon. The honor astounded Cash, considering his outspoken stance against the Vietnam War. Cash, never one to travel alone, brought his entire family along for the ride. Brother Tommy Cash.
I went to see President Nixon with him in 1970. It was quite an exciting experience for the whole family. I just think he felt honored to be asked.
Coming up, 4 country legends hit the highway.
We went to Switzerland to do a Christmas show, and while we were there, we decided it would be a good idea maybe to do some songs together. John and I were just going to go in the studio and do an album, but then since Chris and Waylon were there, why didn't we all go in there?
And later, Cash challenges death to a duel.
From sultry starlet to sexy stuntwoman, Heidi Von Beltz flew high.
She was the first girl to ever do a gator on skis.
Partied hard.
We were wild.
And rode fast.
What makes somebody do that?
But when her charmed career exploded, she should have died. Heidi would face the biggest hurdle of her life.
It doesn't seem like you're doing much, but it's a lot of work.
It's the story you haven't heard. Heidi Von Beltz, this Sunday at 8 on the E! True Hollywood Story.
Imagine TV.
Hey, Freddie, I need a little information.
Well, my mind's a little fuzzy, Chief.
Let's clear it up.
Mercury Mountaineer, available V8, all-wheel drive, leather trim interior, 6-disc CD changer. I hear it's very comfortable.
You're good, kid. Where do you get your information anyway?
Hey, that's my little secret. Power moonroof, standard fog lamps, cast aluminum wheels.
Somewhere in the universe, the ultimate evil stirs. But 3 legendary heroes have come together and will lead the battle to save the galaxy from the menace of the dark side.
Right after lunch.
Play Defeat the Dark Side. Collect cool Star Wars game medallions and you could win cash prizes, even $1 million. Only at Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut.
Good afternoon, Heaven.
My daughter's marrying a musician.
I'll transfer you. Heaven.
I'm on fire!
Oh, I'll put you right through. Heaven.
I need 1,000 digital color copies ASAP.
Oh, sorry.
Need a copying miracle? Call Alpha Graphics.
Great movie.
Great game.
Great movie.
Gossamer Bay.
Great idea.
Gossamer Bay. Something to agree on.
Last year, Americans spent over $2.5 billion on products for their backs.
Here's a nice item.
Why is this market so large? It could be that some people aren't sleeping on the right mattress. We'd recommend a Sealy Posturepedic sleep system. Its patented coils give your back the correct support it needs. Posturepedic support, only from Sealy.
I'm not comfortable with this.
Hello?
Hi, it's Sean, remember? How you doing?
Good.
Good. Being good is good.
Sprint, we know it's not just about the clarity of every call.
So what you're saying is you want to go out.
It's about hearing what goes unspoken. Isn't that the point of contact?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go out.
Yes, it's new Herbal Essences facial care. Yes, a surprisingly gentle way to get glorious skin. And yes, a totally organic experience for your face.
Fashion, beauty, home design, it's all on Style, the new network from E! Join us for a 6-hour special style preview on E! Saturday, May 29th at 2.
Hey, people, I'm John Henson, inviting you to join me for the next Freak-Fold Bowl of Talk Soup. Could get scary, so bring a nightlight tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, only on E!
I'm asked every day, Matt, what's all the buzz with TCI digital cable? Should I get it? Is it for me? Well, do you want more variety, movies, and sports? And can you handle a great installation offer? Just ask Bob here.
Look, this isn't cable as usual. It's the real deal. Everything I had before, plus much more, including more friends. Hey, when are you guys gonna get your own digital cable, huh?
Great programming is being served right through the cable you already have. Get TCI digital cable and you'll be saying it too.
This is huge.
Order TCI digital cable now.
If you're without a cellular phone or tired of high prices, if you're fed up with dropped calls and inferior service, you need to call DCI today. DCI and Cellular One have teamed up to provide digital analog service at prices that will shock you. Try the family plan. 2 phones, $29.99 a month, with free phone-to-phone service and free weekends till 2000. Choose any plan that suits your needs. $59.99 gets you 800 included minutes. No roaming, free weekends till 2000, a free phone, voicemail, and lots more. Call DCI today.
By the early 70s, Johnny Cash was walking the straight and narrow. He was married to former backup singer June Carter and rededicated his life to the Lord. But his road to salvation was not without its distressing detours. In 1975, at the age of 43, Cash decided to write his autobiography he fittingly titled Man in Black. John Carter Cash.
So many people have said so much about him throughout the years. so much gossip and so much speculation as to who he is. And, maybe he wanted just to make a statement as to who he was himself.
Close friend Johnny Western.
I think that the Man in Black was necessary probably for two reasons. Maybe he had a lot of things that he wanted to say, but I think the public wanted to know from his own mouth what Johnny Cash really was about.
Unlike most entertainers who write their autobiographies, Cash wasn't ready to retire, not by a long shot. He went back into the studio, and Columbia Records was ecstatic. After all, 5% of all Columbia's records sold in the United States were directly attributed to Cash. In 1980, to show their gratitude, Columbia celebrated Cash's 25 years in the business with a silver anniversary double record album and a 90-minute television special. Tom T. Hall.
Johnny Cash 25th silver anniversary special. And they called me and asked me if I'd write a song, you know, for Cash.
In 1980, Cash was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Well, this one is special in that like I said, it acknowledges the fact that I struck out in a new direction musically in 1955, and this is bringing it all back home and paying me for it.
In December of 1982, bad luck once again struck Cash and his family while on vacation in Jamaica.
We were all sitting around the dinner table. It was a few days before Christmas, and we all say a prayer, and the people that worked there came in, and we were all standing around the table. And there was no security outside. We look up, and there were 3 individuals with, one had a gun, one a knife, and one a hatchet. I won't ever forget, when they got done, they took us down into the basement, and they locked us in to a room there. There were these huge mahogany coat hangers, not coat hangers, but a tall armoire type of thing where you'd hang your clothes on. And we broke those up and got out.
The Cashes emerged unharmed. Career-wise, Johnny was just as lucky. In 1984, he joined singing legends Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, and Willie Nelson in The Highwaymen.
Somebody decided for us all to sing it rather than one person singing it, and doubtless it certainly helped my work out.
Johnny Cash had a show in Switzerland, and he had asked Waylon and I and Chris to be on his Christmas show, so we all flew to Switzerland. And while we were there, we decided it would be a good idea maybe to do some songs together. John and I were just going to go in the studio and do an album, but then since Chris and Waylon were there, why didn't we all go in there? And then a song came up, Jimmy Webb sent in a song called The Highwayman, and we recorded that, so it kind of all fell together.
By 1986, Cash's career took another surprising turn. He wrote his first novel, Man in White, recounting the life of Apostle Paul. Cash manager and friend Lou Robin.
It was a book that took him 9 years to write, off and on. It was about the conversion of St. Paul and the road to Damascus. It was a great catharsis for him, I guess, for his spiritual life. It was beautifully written.
Cash's spiritual rejuvenation, however, could not help resuscitate his solo singing career. His albums just weren't selling. Although anxious to continue performing, it appeared that no matter what kind of music he made, his style and that of Columbia just didn't mesh. Rick Blackburn, former CEO of Columbia Records.
What had happened, the price on the option, you know, was high to where, you know, my job was to make a profit for the company, and Johnny understood that. The option price was so high that I didn't think that we could. I thought we would then be losing money.
In 1986, Cash was officially dropped from the Columbia label. Tommy Cash.
They thought they were really big deals for doing. You know, we have the power to knock Johnny Cash off our label or anyone else, and they kind of gloated about it.
Cash realized that he needed a record label that believed in him. He chose Polygram Records. Journalist Todd Everett.
They put him on the label, and the first thing they had him do was I think, a really stupid thing that a lot of people do when they hire somebody who's been around for a while. First album, they had him re-record all of his old Columbia records.
The poorly received album was a blow to Cash's pride. Worse, he underwent heart surgery, That led to pneumonia and emergency surgery. Johnny Western.
He died on the table. They had to shock him back, and he did the trip over. He saw the white light and the whole thing, and he told me that he was very resentful of the doctors bringing him back because he felt so peaceful and was such a wonderful, euphoric feeling.
Coming up, Cash's spark reignites.
When I looked at these hip, Hollywood, cool people reacting to Johnny Cash, I looked around the room and I thought, you know, this is fabulous.
And later, Cash's devastating diagnosis.
His condition is good right now. He's just taking it easy. And that's, to me, that's completely understandable. I think he should have done it a good while ago.
She grew up wanting to be an actress and became America's favorite TV mom.
She's just wonderful.
But for this home improvement star, becoming a real-life mother wasn't easy.
She had had troubled pregnancies.
In an exclusive interview, Patricia Richardson shares her personal struggles in the rise to fame.
I was always terrified of being on stage.
And answers the question, is it all worth it?
There were huge blessings and some heavy price tags.
Real stars, real stories. Patricia Richardson Celebrity Profile, this Wednesday at 8, only on E!
Can your camera take 3 different picture sizes whenever you want? Is your film as easy to load as this? And are your favorite pictures as easy to find as this? Advantix. Drop-in film loading, index print, and 3 picture sizes. The Kodak Advantix camera. It's a better way to take pictures further.
Can you believe the price of popcorn?
It's a crime against humanity.
Everything costs an arm and a leg.
Not everything. You can get all your long-distance calls for under $1.
He's talking about 10, 10, 220. Dial it and talk up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents.
That's a powerful brain there, young man.
Talk over 20 minutes, then what?
Yeah, and then what?
It's just 10 cents for each extra minute.
That's cheap. How is it possible? How does popcorn pop? Who cares?
Yeah, just dial 10, 10, 220 and talk up to 20 minutes for only 99 cents.
Want to make that?
It's the same in the automotive world as it is in the world of fashion. There are lots of models, but very few supermodels. Presenting the stylish luxury and race-inspired performance of the 1999 CL from Acura.
Welcome to the Home Depot Kids Workshop. Today we're going to be making a beautiful birdhouse. Everything okay? We need to put the bottom on first.
Oh.
There's one thing to show a young fella how to swing a hammer, but there's another thing to hold a nail while he's swinging it. And we have a list of different items that they get to make, and some of them are very talented.
Esta es la casa del pájaro chiquito.
Anytime you can show any youngster how to do something and do it right, to me that's the best reward you can have.
We started this business with a green thumb, a vivid imagination,
and a lot of hard work.
But before long, I could see we needed help, financial help.
So I called American Express Small Business Services.
They helped us with equipment financing so we could keep on growing.
And with the corporate card, we finally got a handle on expenses.
1-800-SUCCESS was the best call we ever made.
With American Express, we've learned what it's like to have a partner you can count on.
And a brother.
Maybelline introduces curlier, flirtier lashes with Wonder Curl Mascara. The Curl Activator brush grabs and curls. The elastic formula sets for ultra curly lashes. Wonder Curl. Maybe she's born with it.
Florida's natural, not from concentrate premium juice is made by a co-op of growers who are, well, like most traditional families. For example, they never miss their yearly gathering. They always respect their elders, and they constantly look out for the next generation. Sure, the folks who make Florida's natural see things a little differently. After all, they own the land, they own the trees, they own the company. Taste the difference it makes. Florida's natural premium juice.
This is my cousin Giorgio from Italy. Word has it, he really knows Italian food. So last night I took him for the Olive Garden's tour of Italy. It's lasagna, chicken parmesan, and fettuccine alfredo with unlimited salad and breadsticks for $9.95. The Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family.
Big night out.
Even bigger problem. I needed a pad. Em only had tampons. Tampons? Playtex Gentle Glide. Gentle Glide. And I'm thinking, is this gonna be comfortable? And Em says, why wear a pad that feels like a diaper? No way.
Nothing protects quite like Playtex Gentle Glide because its unique design adjusts to comfort fit your body. No pad, not even the thinnest ones, can do that.
Playtex Gentle Glide tampons. So comfortable, you can't even feel them.
The Phantom of the Opera, the international phenomenon on Broadway at the Majestic Theater. Call Telecharge 212-239-6200 and surrender to the music of the night.
By the end of the 80s, Johnny Cash had been dropped by his record company and nearly died on the operating table. An ordinary man might crawl home and quit, but the man in black is no ordinary man. In September of 1990, Johnny Cash was inducted into the Hollywood Rock Walk.
I appreciate this very much, and I feel like I'm in some great company here, and I'm honestly, sincerely honored that you would honor me this way. Thank you very much.
2 years later, in 1992, Cash was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I felt it was a very special thing in a special place, but I was really surprised. You know, I thought all these people that should be in before me, you know, if ever. But then when I went there that night and felt the acceptance, well, it was a great feeling. It was a wonderful feeling.
I'm sure he feels very much about his inductions into the Country Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm sure there's part of Johnny that's going, you know, think of all the great country people, Jimmy Rogers and, you know, all the great people that have been inducted into the Country Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before him. And there's no doubt that he's got to be quietly thrilled about it.
Friend Marshall Grant.
John is such a part of musical history. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Country Music Hall of Fame. I am so proud of it.
Unfortunately, record executives aren't interested in musical history. They're interested in music that sells. And the general feeling was that Cash's money-making days were over.
I like to feel like I've maintained a little musical integrity. I've never recorded a song that I didn't believe in. I've listened to some producers and gone along with totally with their way of thinking when I feel like now it was the wrong thing to have done. Some of my records have been overproduced in the past. Some of them had the wrong production, wrong sound, wrong music. But if it gets to where it doesn't feel right, then I will stop that. I change that.
Cash didn't buy it, and neither did American Recordings president Rick Rubin.
I went to see Johnny play in. He was playing in Orange County, and I thought the show was amazing. I went to see him backstage after the show and just talked to him about the idea of doing something together, and he was really receptive, and it started like that, basically.
Cash's manager, Lou Robin.
Well, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to get back to basics, which he had said for years. He didn't want overproduced albums. He didn't need a lot of voices or strings like some of the records do in Nashville. The more transient artists do. He was just having the time of his life because he knew there was no time limit on how long he could sit at Rick's house and record. Sometimes they'd record all night.
25 years ago, I had this idea to just sit down with my guitar, start recording maybe at midnight, all alone, nobody else in the studio but me, and just sing to that microphone, just one-on-one. Me and the guitar with the 3 chords I know, and put the heart into it and communicate the feelings in those songs, every one. So that's what Rick Rubin let me do.
In 1994, Cash signed with American and collaborated with Rubin on a new album.
The first part of it was to find great songs, and he found lots of great songs, and I found lots of great songs, and he wrote some great songs, and he sat in my living room and played me the songs, and we recorded them.
Cash recalls the session.
We recorded 80 or 90 like that, and then we went back and picked out the ones we liked best, and I tried for another feel until until it really felt right. And almost all the songs, there's a little mistake on them. You know, I'd slip a string or miss a chord or something. But if the feeling and the emotion and the communication of the song was there, we let it pass. That's what I wanted to do.
The result was American Recordings.
Delia's gone, one more round, Delia's gone.
Former Cash guitarist Marty Stewart.
And those American Recordings were so real. And to me, what it did, without country music even knowing it, it completely reset the clock and gave country music a square one starting place for the 21st century.
John Carter Cash.
I think it gave him a rejuvenation. His career got rejuvenated, and so did he. It was interesting to play one place and the crowds be 50 and over, and to play one place and the crowds be 25 and younger. He loved it.
In 1994, the 62-year-old Cash received the Grammy for Contemporary Folk Album of the Year. The recording was hailed by critics. Music journalist Todd Everett.
What Rubin did with Cash that made him, again, more brilliant, he had him recording some songs by younger songwriters.
In 1996, Cash's follow-up album, Unchained, garnered him favorable reviews and paired him up with some of the industry's youngest and most trendy musicians. Marty Stewart.
To me, it was just a further chapter into where American Recordings 1 started. It did more to take, you know, it did more to prove the fact of what a world-class musical citizen he is.
Barbara Mandrell.
He's so hip, he's so fresh, he's so always, you never know what to expect coming out, but he is still, he puts his magic on it.
Working with Rick Rubin and those guys out in California, and Tom Petty on his last album, and the Heartbreakers and those guys, it's been an uplifting experience for him, and playing to the new audience for him, it's just going through what he did in the 60s again.
The thing about longevity is giving the fans what they pay for. Feeding it right back to them and sharing those emotions with them. And one song right after another, whether it's out here on stage or on record.
In December of the same year, Cash proudly received the Kennedy Center's Lifetime Achievement Award presented by President Bill Clinton. Joanne Cash recalls.
I was with him when he sat with this past year with President Clinton in the Kennedy Center to receive his honor. It's a very prestigious award to be able to be chosen in the music field. I was just real proud.
Johnny's brother, Tommy Cash.
I think he was really touched by that. I think he was touched to get the honor to begin with, and I think of all the awards he's gotten, that's one of the most important to him. And I love the story he told about President Clinton. He said, "What size shoes you wear, Mr. President?" And he said, 12D. And Johnny said, "Well, I got you beat. I wear a 13.
1997 began auspiciously. Cash produced another autobiography, Cash. Former Sun Records founder Sam Phillips.
It's another one of those honest things that people will pick up and read, and he's written a number of books. And I think with that in mind and the things that he's written on his own, that people from now on are going to think of Johnny Cash for what he was, because this man, quote unquote, tells it like it is and was.
John is a different kind of guy. I mean, he's not your normal guy, guitar player, songwriter on the street. And young and old can see that immediately, and that's why when people see Johnny Cash, they say, yeah, that's the real deal right there.
Communicating with the masses was Cash's strength. He looked forward to promoting his book and making more music. But in October of 1997, tragedy struck. Cash was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Immediately, all public appearances were canceled. Friend Marshall Grant.
The first time that I heard that he was sick, the report came out that he had Parkinson's disease. But I think it's met its match this time. I think if anybody can beat it, it'll be John.
Dr. Nat Winston.
Well, it's not an uncommon illness. It is by no means a sudden death knell. My next door neighbor lived 20 years that I know of with Parkinsonism. It's progressive, but it's not fatal by a long shot in the early stages.
Cash friend Naomi Judd.
I think these reality checks of his health and just all the stuff that happens to all of us, Johnny has learned how to work through them by writing about them.
Close friend Tom T. Hall.
I think his spirituality and his religion is rooted in very solidly in the basics. But he's a very, he has a very good, quick, brilliant mind, and so I think in times of crisis he goes back to the basics.
I don't think that he's going to let that get in the way of the stuff that he wants to do. And recording, I know, is something that he really enjoys doing. And it's, I'm sure he'll tour again at some point, but I think right now he wants to take a little time off and relax, well-deserved, and do some recording, and then I'm sure he'll be back really soon.
He knows that now it's time to relax for a little bit. He went over 40 years at the grindstone out there and worked all those 40 years like he was 25. His condition is good right now. He's just taking it easy. I think he should have done it a good while ago because he deserves it. He deserves to rest.
Coming up, Cash is down but far from out.
It's a wonderful delight and a grand feeling to know that I personally know the great, one and only Johnny Cash, my friend.
And later, Cash's legacy lives on.
He is so willing to show his brokenness.
In the world of rock and roll, he was already a legend.
He had the feeling for music, second to none.
But Elvis Presley was determined to make it on the big screen as well.
He wanted to be Marlon Brando or James Dean.
But instead of stardom, he found frustration.
He really didn't like those pictures. They were so boring to him.
Loneliness.
He had been with a lot of women, and he wanted love.
And addiction.
It all started taking these little white pills.
It's the wild times of the man who would be king.
Elvis in Hollywood, tomorrow at 8 on the E! True Hollywood Story.
Fortunately, there's Nasonex nasal spray, an effective nasal allergy prescription medicine taken once a day to relieve nasal allergy symptoms, indoors and out. Now that's wonderful. The most common side effects were headache, viral infection, sore throat, nosebleeds, and coughing.
Sometimes a man gets too hungry to clean his hands properly. The powdered sugar on this donut puts a semi-protective barrier between your fingerprint and your nutrition. But even if some grease does get on that donut, that's just flavor to a High Life man.
A thought for those of you married to your job. Every once in a while, have a fling with your wife. Royal Caribbean, like no vacation on earth.
Excuse me, number 8 bus go here. About number 9.
Who are you looking at?
Dry cleaners wouldn't take a check again, eh, Nigel?
Use Visa Check Card. It automatically deducts from your checking account everywhere Visa's accepted. So you can get what you need and get on with life.
Yes, it
its new Herbal Essences facial care. Yes! Yes, a surprisingly gentle way to get glorious skin. And yes, a totally organic experience for your face.
I'm Joe Boxer, and I'll be brief. We need a cure for breast cancer. For General Motors Concept Cure, I designed the Chevy Venture Taxi. You can win, pledge, and enter. Let's stop breast cancer in its tracks.
Well done, Bruce Lee, but those men were flabby and weak.
Karate Kid?
Kid? I'm 35. You lack focus. My master will teach you.
Arnold from Happy Days? Lipton Brisk Iced Tea, where did you get that? Editing mistake in my favor. It's Brisk, baby! Only fool fight man with Brisk.
In 1944, Coppertone sunscreen was invented to help prevent sunburns. It was so popular that Coppertone became a big company with a cute advertising logo and a huge research department. We introduced the SPF system. We invented sunscreens for athletes, kids, and even babies. We introduced UVA sunscreens, oil-free sunscreens, insect repellent sunscreens, and even disappearing purple sunscreens. After all that inventing, you'd think we'd be done. But when it comes to creating new sun care products, no one has more bright ideas than Coppertone. We make America fun in the sun.
Get connected to the biggest celebrities, the latest showbiz news, and more. It's the world of entertainment at your fingertips at www.eonline.com or AOL keyword E.
Hi, I'm John Henson. The next edition of Talk Soup is so hot it's almost illegal. So you better wrap your TV in brown paper. Tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, only on E.
I wanted an...
Winning teams don't just happen. They're built with years of hard work and are led by people of dedication and extreme integrity. At Jenkins, Block & Associates, we've built such a team ready to handle your personal injury, workers' compensation, and Social Security cases. We offer reduced fees and instant access to our trained legal professionals. If you have legal questions and want help, go with a winning team. Jenkins, Block & Associates.
We work for you.
Now more than ever, there's something for everyone on TCI. Just look what's coming up on TCI this May.
HGTV invites you to enjoy the only show devoted to everyone's favorite room, the kitchen.
From floor to ceiling, cupboard to cupboard, we'll give you great ideas for your own kitchen design.
Join host Joan Cohn as she visits exclusive designer showrooms and tours America's most beautiful kitchens. Watch Kitchen Design.
Tune in. It's all on cable. It's all on TCI.
By the fall of 1997, Johnny Cash had an optimistic eye toward the future. His personal and professional life had fallen into place. No longer addicted to drugs, Cash was ready to hit the road promoting his new book and recent recording accomplishments.
We're on tour, actually, concert tour. We were in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Cash's career could not have looked brighter.
Kind of evil make me want to grab my submachine.
But in November of 1997, Johnny Cash announced to the world that his touring days were over. He had been diagnosed with a rare strain of Parkinson's disease called shy dragger's syndrome. Cash's career may have been sidetracked, but his legacy lives on. After a career that has spanned 5 decades, Johnny Cash has followed his musical dreams from the cotton fields of rural Arkansas to cities around the globe. At times, he lost sight of what might lie ahead of him, but he always found his way back on course.
She was low down and trifling, and she was cold and mean. You know, when I was a sinner, I was really a sinner. And then with redemption, I found the peace there in redemption, and it's perfect peace. Hard to hang on to, but it's there for me, you know, through God. And, but I can't close the door on the past because that's part of what I am too. Can't deny it or I'd be a liar.
Well, my mother always said God had his hand on John, and I believe that's absolutely true, or he would be dead. He is, he's amazing that he has survived.
Cash has survived and has kept his musical career thriving into the 90s.
While American Recordings was still out, we started finding material for the next album, which came to be Unchained.
Unchained would, in fact, garner him 2 Grammy nominations in 1998 for Best Country Album and for his performance of Rusty Cage, a song originally performed by Soundgarden.
And for Best Male Country Vocal Performance, the nominees are Clint Black for Something That We Do, Johnny Cash for Rusty Cage.
Cash has worked with some of music's most renowned artists, and he has pushed the limits of traditional musical genres.
Johnny Cash is such an original that it's very difficult to put his music into one category anyway. I mean, a lot of people would say, well, Johnny Cash is not country, he's folk. And then there's some say, well, he's more this and that. But he's just Johnny Cash, and he is accepted by a whole lot of different groups of people, including rock and roll and country, and a lot of people who just like Johnny Cash.
I think John Cash is definitely a person that does not need labeling whatsoever.
He really is an outsider of all musical forms. He's really his own thing.
When Johnny Cash came on the radio, in the first 3 seconds, you knew who that voice was. To me, that's a superstar.
He appeals to people of all ages and has been embraced by fans from around the world.
He was popular with young people then, but let me tell you, I think he's more popular today with young people than ever before. You can classify lots of people, but you'll have to classify Johnny Cash as the coolest dude on this planet.
John represents, like I said, the working man. And I think that for many, many, many years, he'll be remembered by the working man after he's gone. I think he has a legacy that will continue for many, many years as a hero of the working man.
Here is a man that has lived a turbulent life, has written about it from the depth of his soul, and has managed to create songs that give people an insight as to the working man's life. Johnny Cash is a very normal person. He's a working man, as far as I'm concerned. He just happens to be working in a very strange business.
But truly, there's only one Johnny Cash. And I think when you draw the line on the 20th century, as far as American musical citizens and American musical folk heroes, I think Johnny Cash is, definitely in the very top of that list.
His words and stories have touched millions of souls, and he has recorded some of the most recognizable songs in American music.
Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I want to stay.
Johnny Cash's lyrics are they're deep in some respects, but mostly they're simple and straight and to the point, and they say in a very few words what it takes other people volumes to say, books sometimes.
All of a sudden, you hear this guy singing in this very deep voice, and then, don't take your guns to town, son, and Folsom Prison Blues, and all of that. And it was a different tempo, and it was a kind of a story. All these songs had a story to them.
He set the standard for country artists and all musicians to follow.
In 1955, I struck out in a different direction with my music. I really didn't know it at the time.
I never felt listening to Johnny Cash that country music had to take an emotional backseat to any other form of music, and that it remained as intensely contemporary as any form of music because of artists like Johnny Cash. He was an inspiration to me, as well as, probably 2 generations of rock and roll musicians.
Johnny Cash, back in his day, put a face on Nashville through hit records, a hit television show, the biggest touring act to come out of here, and probably propelled Nashville to take its place in the music industry on a much higher level.
Cash may have helped put Nashville on the map, but now he must contend with his own personal battles.
He tells me he's retired from the road now, that the touring is over, so maybe he will get to rest and enjoy life more than he ever has before. We hope so.
Still, he remains an influential individual in the world of country music.
He's still a force in this business.
and probably one of the most respected people in this business even today. I love him with all my heart. I'll always love him. I'll go to my grave loving him.
It's a wonderful delight and a grand feeling to know that I personally know the great, one and only Johnny Cash, my friend. It's the best.
Cash is a true original, and his life is an example that continues to influence generations.
I knew Cash had done a lot, but it's one of my first world tour when I went to Europe. And I know how hard that market is to break for country music. Johnny Cash is everywhere. Johnny Cash is looked upon as an artist over there. What Cash pulled off 30 years ago, I would be proud to try and pull off today.
He is so willing to show his brokenness, to be vulnerable. And, you know, if you look at this rock-solid, rugged man, he is the epitome of the strong, silent, man's man type.
Well, all of my life, I have known that John has this certain magnetism and strength and uniqueness about him. He has something that's magic. He always has.
Cash's unique insight has helped him chronicle the human experience and forms the foundation on which he has built a legendary career.
I think he's a legend because he's never put himself above his music or above his audiences.
To say, you know, Johnny Cash, that in itself, just the name, is a bit of Americana. Because he, through music and through his stories and his persona, for that matter, sort of implies a certain part of America. You know, the prison thing, the working man, the music.
He'll be remembered for his always standing up for the less fortunate. You know, he's always been concerned and grieved by people that are in unfortunate situations, prisoners, the poor, the needy, the people who haven't found God of their understanding. He'll be remembered for all of those things, but when country music is looked at 30 years from now, 40 years from now, Johnny Cash will be the steady course for country music.
Just the idea of a world without John is like someone saying, hey, the sun's through, it's not coming up in the morning, a light would go out. I've heard a lot of people express this sentiment. They cannot envision a life without Cash.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
He didn't have to say, hi, I'm Johnny Cash. They all know that.